Every year I try to sit down and discuss my most recent uploads as a way to chart my progress and keep myself accountable for the stuff I create. But this time I did things a bit differently. For one thing, I'm trying to get into live streaming in 2021, so I decided to record this on my Twitch about a week ago and archive a slightly condensed version here. Slightly condensed. I know these updates generally don't get much interaction, but I still think having a level of transparency on the main channel is good for me as a creator. So yeah, check out my Twitch if that sounds cool, and thanks for stopping by. So this is Broly, Frieza, and my evolution with Dragon Ball. You know, I never really get an opportunity to talk about Dragon Ball, but I do have things to say about Dragon Ball, and so the whole premise of this video is basically just, here is how, my evolution with Dragon Ball has, grown over the years, how it was like this thing that really had a big impact on the landscape of shonen and stuff like that, and but then it came back with Dragon Ball Super, and it keeps getting all these different iterations, and it just doesn't stop, and it's like, well, now it's almost like, I've moved on from it personally, but it's still here, and so it's like, what do I want out of the franchise? Do I even want anything out of the franchise? And I think it's fine. It's definitely not one of the better videos I made in this stretch. There are some little points in there. This is also like the first year where I can potentially call back to AniTube Digest and get someone else's, like another creator's sort of perspective or observation that they had made, because Shabes talked about this video, and one of the points that he made that I agreed with was there's a part, like I go through all of Dragon Ball and I talk about, like the personal perspective and how it kind of evolved as a series and the way that the story is structured, and then as soon as I get to Broly, I'm like, oh man, the franchise has never looked better than it does here. And it's like, I didn't bring up visuals at any other point in the video. It's kind of a non sequitur. I really just wanted to, so it comes off as like I'm like degrading, or not degrading, is that the word? It comes off like I'm insulting the other material I talked about, which I mean is kind of true. I don't really like the visual style of Resurrection F, but it's a non sequitur really to the point of the video. So when I just go, like, I open my discussion of Broly with, oh man, the visuals are so good, I like the visuals. Doesn't really add anything to the video. It's just kind of a comment that was just like crammed in there because it could be. There was also, oh right, I'm actually really close to the point where I was able to actually do a little match cut. Because I don't do many match cuts, but that was an edit that I liked in this video, because it's like this little part here, and it's like, whoop, different part of the fight, yeah, match cut. I wish I could do more of those, but it very much, I don't know, it takes more time to do that, and sometimes the footage, like, you really have to go looking for a match cut. Like, this worked because it was a fight scene, and so you just gotta find, like, different fight scene clips and go with that. And so I was able to do that match cut there. But I would like to do more of those. Like, I like doing the percussive edits. Another thing about this video, there's a lot of editor's notes. Like, here's a thing. There's some text on the screen. Here's an editor's note. And this is a problem that some of, the trans characters video has this issue as well. And some of the other videos do, where it's just, there will be text sort of crammed in, and I'm gonna 2x speed. I remember, like, in the very beginning there were a lot as well, or maybe they were a little more spread out in this video. The trans characters video had a lot of editor's notes, especially in like the Yu Yu Hakusho section. But yeah, there's editor's notes. I try not to do them anymore, because at that point, if it's important enough to like this, I could have just incorporated that into the script. Like, I could have gone back and re-recorded something, or put it in, because, like, oh, it's, passing the torch and trying to take it back, that's relevant. But when it's just text on the screen, as opposed to actually being, when it's not, like, written into the script and narrated, match cuts are pretty great when you stumble onto them, but they can be pretty fatiguing if you go out of your way to look for them. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, like, sometimes you just get burnt out with clip selection and stuff as is, just trying to, like, find things that work.
and then to go the extra step and be like, okay, now these all have to match into each other. Yeah, then at that point it's like, stop. I don't want to do this anymore. But yeah, I don't like to do editor's notes as much anymore. I think it was pretty much the trans characters video happened, and I was like, it was really bad in that video in terms of editor's notes, which was just at that point, like when you start having so much text on screen, it's either, like the reason why they exist is because like I would get to a point in the script and I would feel like not confident in the way that I had expressed it or, gotten the point across. And so then I was like, maybe I'll put an editor's note here just for like extra clarification, even though it doesn't matter how much you clarify a point, it's going to get misunderstood by somebody. Somebody's not going to get it, or somebody is going to maybe not necessarily not understand it, but like your wavelength isn't going to match. And there's going to be some sort of like breakdown in communication, or you're in an implication that you missed or didn't consider that, oh, this line might imply this. Language is confusing. And so, yeah. Editor's notes, I try to avoid them for the most part. Like 1 or 2 is fine, but when you start getting to like paragraphs on screen and stuff, it's not. I'd rather not. There was a point that a commenter, which I didn't save the comment, but I remember a commenter pointing out when I got into the discussion of Broly's character. There's a part where Paragus has a line, and the dub specifically changes the context of it. Because it's the part where, Broly's going berserk, and Paragus is like, oh no, see, look, here's another editor's note. I could have made this a point. I could have, like, gone back and added a little bit into the script. Like, look at this. Like, they've got similar facial expressions. That's almost to say, like, but he's the guy getting beaten up, and he's the guy doing the beating up. But yet they both seem to be in, like, the same amount of pain, except Broly's is more of, like, not the physical pain, but, like, the mental pain. And it's like, why didn't I just add that to the script? Why did I just leave it as an editor's note? Like, maybe because I wasn't focusing on visuals, but I included the comment about how, oh, the visuals here are better than they've ever been. Okay, whatever. This would have at least added something to the point I was making, but whatever, it's fine. Anyway, yeah, the point when Broly first starts going berserk, and Paragus is like, oh no, in the dub he says, like, if we don't stop this, like, Broly will be killed. And so it's like, oh, he cares to some extent. And I kind of mentioned that, like, well, yeah, even if Paragus does care, it's, if how it factors into, like, his actions of, still being abusive, it doesn't matter, like, what your intentions are, the action still is what it is. But in the sub, or in the Japanese, I guess, it's not Broly will be killed. The line is Broly will kill me, which is a little more of like a selfish self-preservation thing. Which, I mean, it still doesn't really undermine the point I was making, but it was a difference in translation that somebody pointed out in the comments, and was worthwhile to consider, I guess. Yeah, that's also right. There was another edit I did. There was where is it? Maybe I won't be able to find it. Maybe this was a bad idea. Maybe I should have just gone with the static image like I normally do, because now I'm just finding ways to distract myself, and oh, maybe I messed up. It's fine. I'm just trying to avoid that ad break. Generally, I don't put ad breaks in my videos, but this one, it's like after a certain point, I was like, okay, it's 10 minutes long. I did the little cheeky, that's why I put the ad break there, because I did a cheeky plug for the Nen show, and it's like, well, that's a natural break in the script. I'm used to making like the wrestling videos where you'll do kind of like the transitions, or like the quote, like where a commercial break would theoretically go. So it's like, okay, putting an ad break here kind of makes sense. All right, so the next video is a search for the ultimate Shonen Jobber, playing into my background with wrestling, being a fan of wrestling, and actually being to work that into like storytelling. So, it starts off with, what is the idea of I just realized I had the music still playing in the background. I wanted to stop that at some point.
Corny personas in backstage politics on their way to finally reaching the pinnacle of the business. And for some, that also involves eating a ton of pinball.
But yeah, so it talks about how, like, what is a jobber? and I get to talk about wrestling for a little bit. So like, of course it's cool. Of course I enjoy it. I liked making this little some of the clip selection I did use was kind of neat because I this one obviously, like, I'm aware of being the elite, so I was able to like, hey, they made this video about Matt Jackson when he was in the WWE, and now he's like a big head of AEW. Like, he's one of the people in charge, like not just being an on-screen talent wrestler, actually, like, top of the company, but he's also like literally in management for them. So I thought this was a neat piece of footage to use. Obviously, Kurt Hawkins' losing streak gets factored in. So like there's good context for it. Working into my wrestling background, which was cool, and then also my wrestling background is if I am a pro wrestler or like ever trained, which is not true. But you get what I'm saying. And then it segues pretty naturally from that into so basically it sets up like, what is a jobber? It's basically somebody who exists to lose, to make somebody else look better. And so it's like, okay, well, how do we connect that to other types of fiction then? Because wrestling is its own performance. It's its own type of manufactured fiction or reality. I don't know. There are plenty of different ways wrestling's been described, and it is a type of a narrative. So you can look at it in the same way as you do works of fiction. And so that ties right into One Piece, because like we talk about wrestling has this like ever ongoing narrative. It never stops. There are no like seasonal breaks. Like you can focus on a character and that journey might start and stop and start, or start and stop, but the company still goes. Like, it doesn't ever, unless a company gets shut down, there never is an end to the narrative. And so segueing that to One Piece obviously works because One Piece is like 1,000 chapters now. It's endless. It's forever ongoing. Oda is immortal. He will never stop writing One Piece. So yeah, then it goes to One Piece, and basically I think the video just flows really well. Because then from One Piece, we're able to set up like, here's Buggy the Clown. He's a character who shows up initially. He's kind of a gag villain, but then he like keeps coming back, and he's always like the butt of the joke. He's always, so like he is still a jobber. He is still coming back to lose and lose and lose. But then like through those losses, we're able to flip this. And admittedly, this is like a point I could make against the video, is like this alignment chart of jobberdom is pretty simple. It's just like, I made this image in Photoshop. It's like 2 lines, some text, and then just like a stock background with character images. But I think it worked for like what I was doing. I didn't really know how else to visualize it. Like, I want to make like a complex graph, or I don't know. Like, it being simple, I think works because it's all you really need. I can't think of how else I would have done this. Which, was part of the problem, maybe. Like, maybe I should have thought on it more and I could have done more with it, but I don't know. It was, a tool for the video, because then you zoom into the little bottom part, and it's like, okay, so now we're expanding the graph. And so instead of just looking at the character scale, which is like obviously protagonists up here, it goes more into, where's the next time it shows up? I guess it doesn't show up until later. But then it basically, we do the comparison of like, okay, in terms of jobbers, like, it works because you get like the 4 different categories. And so I'm able to talk about just the different ways in which characters who exist to lose can be cool. And how like the irrelevant can be impactful, and how they can have a presence. And so I just like this video a lot. And there are some cool things I'm able to do with this concept because it is more of like a broader topic sort of discussion. I'm able to, talk about all these different series. So we get to mention One Piece, which isn't something I do often. There's a Yu Yu Hakusho example, 2 Yu Yu Hakusho examples in here, actually. Because, like the reason why this video exists is because I wanted to talk about Kaito. Because we had just done the Yu Yu Hakusho Nen show, and we were doing Hunter x Hunter. And, this isn't like the Cheetu situation where revisiting the material suddenly gave me this like completely different perspective on the character. Like, Cheetu was somebody I didn't really consider before, and then we reread Hunter x Hunter for the Nen show, and I was like, why am I so fascinated by this character? When I first went through Yu Yu Hakusho, I did think Kaito's role was interesting. So in a sense, this idea had been in my head for a while, It was just a matter of how would I conceptualize it. And so yeah, like you get to talk about all the different categories, get a little bit of a Dragon Ball reference in here as well, talking about Yamcha. And, maybe that's a little unfair that it was kind of like, oh, talking about the bad aspects of Yamcha's character, that he is relevant fodder. He shows up to lose and lose and lose, and it gets repetitive. Like, I don't know if there's another way I could have spun that positively, but I think I kind of explained it in the video decently enough. And, of course, there's also this little joke here. Like, I needed a visual to showcase the capable yet irrelevant people who show up, look pretty cool, but ultimately don't matter. Like they get that one appearance or very few appearances, and they make good on that. And so it's like, yep, math whiz, capable yet irrelevant. That's me. I'm the ultimate shonen jobber. I fooled you all. It was a good joke, good for the bit. But yeah, so another cool thing, because this is a very general video, I get to cram in a Baby Steps reference here. That wasn't the point of this video, but I was able to do it anyway because, I've had ideas for Baby Steps videos for a long time. And maybe in 2021 I can actually finally get to that once I do the Shonen movie project. I want to get to it. I want it out of the way. I wanted to get it over with. But yeah, so I got to talk about his what makes his kind of match interesting with HxH. And what's also cool about this, and it's kind of similar to the Jobber video is very similar to the Underdogs video, where it's a more general topic and I'm able to reference a bunch of different things. And of course, Baby Steps gets brought up. So like, it's an excuse to cram in a Baby Steps reference also. Like, the premise of the Jobber video was to recommend Yu Yu Hakusho in the way that I did, or talk about Yu Yu Hakusho like I did. But, because the video was already going to exist and it's like, well, this is relevant to the topic, so of course I'm going to do it. Like any excuse, of course. And I also thought the video would perform better. It only got 32,000, which is exactly what the Underdogs video did, which is kind of funny looking at that. And it's just proof that I don't know really how YouTube works, because like I didn't expect the Bloom video to do 68,000 views. Where did you all come from? Because yeah, like, well, that's we'll get to that video later. But then like this one, I thought like it's shonen related. It's got a One Piece thumbnail, so it should do well. And it did fine. Like for my channel, that's kind of not necessarily underperforming. Like looking at like the Comic Girls video, maybe that's like my lower. No, the Dragon Ball video, 18,000. That's pretty good, as a good metric as far as like a video underperforming on my channel, because it is a shonen video. It's Dragon Ball, so like I would have thought it would do better. And I mean, it's fine because it's not like I make videos. I just put this video up. Do you think I made this video for the views? You think I'm gonna go ahead, YouTube? I dare you, promote this to 60,000 views. Do it. You won't, coward. But yeah. So it did better than like the Dragon Ball video, but still like. Like if it's like, oh, I'm trying to recommend Baby Steps and get it exposed to, get more eyes on Baby Steps, it didn't do that. It didn't fulfill that goal. It's not like, 100K Hunter x Hunter video. It didn't quite hit that mark. So, maybe it's still working. Like I'm still hammering in the Baby Steps recommendations subtly throughout the channel that, people will get to it eventually. But I did like bringing that example up as well, because I still have more to say about that match that I didn't say in that video. Like I only focused specifically on like his style of tennis and what that represented as far as like being a jobber, and how it affected HxH's character and that sort of thing. But there's more. There's a deeper theme, an idea to that match that I didn't talk about here, because that'll be for the series. Like it wasn't relevant to bring it up here. But so it's I guess a case of like I'm again still like hinting at the Baby Steps stuff that I want to talk about, but I'm not giving my whole hand away, I guess. Like there's still cards on the table, and it's also because like you would think, oh, somebody's a jobber character, so that means they don't matter, they're bad or whatever. But for the most part, this video was talking about like how that sort of character can be good, and so that's also why I think it was an interesting concept, because it wasn't looking at this sort of trope or this way of writing a character and saying like, oh, this is bad, thing bad. You know, is looking at like, okay, this character doesn't have much screen time, but what do they do with that screen time? And, you know, that factors into some of the other things I did. Like, the Cheetu video was kind of like a follow-up to the Jobber video in a way, because like he would have been another example that would have worked, who I didn't think to mention at the time. And that's going to happen with these broader concepts videos. I'm going to only have like a limited pool of examples that I have time to mention or that I think to mention. Well, at the end of the video, there's a line about like, oh, he's the quintessential Shonen Jobber, which of course was in the context of like, obviously I haven't seen everything and there are plenty of other examples that I didn't bring up. So I don't know why I ended on the line like, oh, he's the quintessential Shonen Jobber, when I knew that, I don't know. Like sometimes I like to, my videos tend to definitely skew in the dramatic direction. And in some cases that works. In some cases it's a little, doesn't quite work. And I feel like, you know, like, I don't know, just the way I kind of built up to that line, it's like, like I wanted to get across that like he is a character I consider to be one of the most interesting jobber characters, if you will. But just the way I phrased it is like, oh, he's the quintessential, like there's none better. You know, it's just like poor choice of words, but it's a simple thing. It doesn't really take away from the video. It's just kind of like a minor nitpick. And the other point that I had in my notes, I don't know why I did this. So, you know, you get the drum roll, like, who is the ultimate Shonen Jobber, as foreshadowed in the title. And of course, I had to do it because, you know, poking fun at some Naruto discourse.
Every villain in part 2 of Naruto. Yes, post-time skip, we're introduced to the Akatsuki.
Now, this is the, so this was not a visual that I thought of in the script. This is one of the cases where, like, the edit takes a life of its own. So, of course, like, the joke here is that, oh, Naruto Part 2 villains, they are the biggest jobbers in anime because, oh boy, they're badly written or something. They're not good because talk no jutsu. They're all jobbers. They all just lose to Naruto and they're weak and they're bad and they're jobbers and they're bad and they suck. So that's the meme. That's the joke. It's like, haha, they're bad. They're the jobbers. And then of course, you know, like that's not it. Now this part here, this visual, obviously, I did have this in mind because I wanted to. I had already made the joke about passing the torch, and it was a JBL quote, and I was like, I want this to be a thing, so that I used. But I don't know why I made it a K-On reference, because I guess I thought it was funny when I was doing the visual edit for it, because it's like, wouldn't it be funny if I just added another layer to this joke? Like, it's talking about Naruto villains, but then we like equate the Naruto villains to different K-On characters, because Hokago Tea Time is Naruto the Akatsuki apparently. Let's also I'm going to put the playback speed to normal because I also want to just like appreciate how many jokes are just like rapid fired off in this sequence. So there's the build up. Every villain in part 2 of Naruto. That's the first joke. You know, like that's the joke that every villain in part 2 of Naruto. Second joke is that okay, now the Akatsuki is Hokago Tea Time. That it's just the K-On cast for some reason. So that's already 2 jokes. And now it's like we're going further. So it's like okay, Ritsu is Pain for some reason. Is this also like a kind of joke because it's like the meme edit, the meme image that I made in my K-On Watch thread, and it's like, wow. And so it's like, okay, Toby is Sawa-chan sensei. I don't know why. Here's another joke, like, oh, Ton-chan was Madara. What? The turtle? Like, I don't know why I thought that was funny. I don't know why I edited this into the video. But yeah, like Undead Chakra Daddy. Why did I say that? So that, you know, there's also like the joke here. It's like, oh, he's JBL. So there's another joke crammed in here. And now it's a Brock Lesnar reference.
WWE champion, conqueror of the Undertaker.
So there's another joke in there,
Sorry, I got a little carried away.
and then it's like, okay, you have to stop it. But like, how many jokes were just packed into this little section? Like, it could have just been, haha, it's the Naruto villains, and I could have just used footage of the Naruto villains. But it's like, no, we gotta make it this multi-layered Galaxy Brain. The Akatsuki are the K-On! Cast, and Ritsu is this big pain mastermind, but actually she's being manipulated by the teacher who's being manipulated by the turtle. I don't know. I don't know. And then, yeah, but the video ends. It's not like in a I think this is bad way. It's just like I don't know why I did it. It's just random, and I don't understand. Oh, that's all right. So there's another joke immediately after that,
No, the real winner is some dude named Kaito.
because that's how they would pronounce kite as Kaito, but it's not that one.
No, not that one.
The other one.
This one. His opening conflict with
So there's another joke in there, and it's just like,
Chapter Black are all of
that was for a video that is mostly pretty dry. Like there's not a ton of jokes crammed in here, other than that segment. Like for the most part, it's pretty straightforward, getting across the idea of the Jobber character and talking about like the narratively interesting aspects of that. And then I just go off, and it's like, here's like 30 jokes crammed into this one skit. Lol, random. It's funny. It's funny. Laugh, everybody. Anyway, the next video is Why I Love Hunter x Hunter, which, because this video is primarily personally driven, the premise, like, the premise of this video is basically me attempting to, in a broad sense, capture everything that I love about Hunter x Hunter, and that's just not possible. If only for the fact that by looking at it in very broad strokes and just trying to capture an assortment of elements, there's not really as much room to dig deeper into like the nuances of that. And so mainly it does just exist to be the intro to Togashi month, because it sets up all the topics that I go into in the other videos. It talks a little bit about gender, which sets up the trans characters video. There's an offhand comment about Cheetu, like he's a character I was able to appreciate more as, you know, my perspective on the series changing, as I as a person change. Obviously it's talking about like the whole quote at the beginning about like, you know, can I remember the quote off the top of my head without pulling it up? You should enjoy the detours to the fullest, because that's where you'll find the things more important than what you want. That's the line. And so, like, obviously, that's how this video starts. And it's how Togashi month ends, basically. Like, that was the whole running... I mean, there were a couple of different recurring ideas going throughout this month, but that was the main one. And so, yeah, like, the video is a strong introduction. It's basically, you know, it gets across all the ideas it needs to in order for me to go into the other videos. So, like, as far as being a good, like a storybook beginning to the piece, to set up the storybook ending with the power of friendship, it's good in that regard. It does what I need it to do. So, like, it's not a bad video. I don't dislike it. But it's, you know, by the nature of the premise of the video, and it being a more, like, personally, just kind of like a generic, here's why I like the thing video, it's just kind of inherently going to be a little underwhelming in that regard, because I can't possibly capture everything that I like about the series in one piece. So, like, things are going to get glossed over or, like, not mentioned in super deep detail. But otherwise, yeah, that's that video. There's not really a ton to say about it. Anyway, Togashi's trans characters. There are a number of points that I think could have been better, or could have been phrased a little more carefully. Yeah, so, you know, maybe it just does come down to the fact that, like, no matter how carefully I try to word things, or how much I try to, you know, I really think, because this isn't, you know, you could maybe look at this and see like, oh, did you just like rush this script out because it's, Togashi month? You were doing, trying to do like 6 of these videos, but that was not the case at all. I did a good bit of prep work for at least like the script writing process. I had most of the scripts written before I started actually editing the videos for the month. And this was by far the one that would have taken the longest to write because, so like, just, I guess generally, it's just like discourse about this stuff is always going to be a hassle because you got to be careful of like, you could say one thing and some people are going to get on you for saying it and some people are going to praise you for saying it. And you can say the opposite thing or like try to correct it or even reach like kind of a middle ground. And it's like, well, no matter what you do, you're going to probably piss somebody off. And it's just a matter of like pissing off the right people and not pissing off the wrong people. And sometimes that fluctuates. This video, you would think for how much I was like trying to be careful and, trying to at least make it so that people will engage with the ideas I'm getting across, or that I'm like reaching out. Like, I guess I could kind of see why I left it in as, I don't know. This is how the video starts.
Saw the title of this video, you probably know what's coming, so I'm just gonna say it. Yu Yu Hakusho is transphobic.
The like the little jokey musical cue at the beginning as well is like, I don't know why. Like I know how YouTube I guess it's that I didn't fully like understand how YouTube comments be before this video, cuz like after I made the video, the first couple days after I made this video, the first actually maybe like week or so even after I made this video, was not having a good time. The comments section is a shit show. It very quickly got out of hand, and I learned a lot about the YouTube comments from this video. This was potentially, and also the thing about this video is that like I do have some comments from this comment section that I thought were interesting and worth noting. Maybe it was also just because this is one video that I wasn't like 100% confident in, whereas all the other ones, other than like this one, for the most part, there isn't anything where I'm like, I have doubts about the video. Like I'm pretty, my conviction is pretty strong in like this video. Like even when I got some backlash for the title of this video, because it used to be The Power of Toxic Friendship. And I did change the title because, the title did seem to kind of be giving people the wrong impression of the video. So like, even if I disagree with some of the criticism, like it's not a matter of like what's the word I'm looking for? So, like, it's not like I didn't have any other video that people had like issue with the way I presented it or something, but, people taking issue with the title of this video didn't really like give me any insecurities about the video. It was more just like, the feedback to this video kind of already hit at points that I was like going into the discussion. I was a little nervous about, what were people going to think about, or, like, was I saying things carefully enough? Was I approaching the topic in the right way? But so like going into it, if I was nervous about people potentially getting, potentially being like off-put by the things I said, or like not wanting to engage with the ideas, just starting off with flat out saying like, like it's like the short answer, long answer thing. So it's like, oh, here's the hook and you want to stay and listen to more. And for some people that might have worked, like, oh, Yu Yu Hakusho is transphobic, sort of, not in the way you might think. Here's why, and that sort of like intro might work for some people, but that some people are gonna see that and be like, just jump right to the comments, which I'm sure is what a lot of people did. The fact that this opened up with the Yu Yu Hakusho discussion, I can tell that people didn't watch the whole video because all they're talking about is Yusuke. All they're talking about is the first Yu Yu Hakusho section of the video, and it's like, And some of those, like I said, I do have some comments that I had legitimate takeaways from this video. Like, oh, okay, here's something I could have done better. I do agree with, the points they were saying. A lot of the comments, not a lot of them, we'll say like there's a good mix. Some of them are legitimately constructive, and, even if they disagree with me or, like if it was more like negative criticism, like there were some points where like, yeah, I agree with that negative criticism. I understand. And then there were other comments where it's just like, you're just a bigot. That's unfortunate. I think also part of why the Yu Yu Hakusho section doesn't work, like beyond just being potentially a little abrasive right off the bat, this was also a point that like Shabes had made in AniTube Digest, where this was kind of a problem of I didn't necessarily offer enough context into like with the level E section. The level E section I think is the best part of the video because I explain what's going on with the character. I give like I offer some sort of plot summary to at least give you an idea, like because I assumed that nobody had seen level E because realistically most of my audience, most of the people who watch this video probably didn't see level E. They're probably not clicking on a Togashi video with Yu Yu Hakusho and Hunter x Hunter in the thumbnail because, oh, I only recognize level E. And, like there were some comments where people are like, hey, I see Mikisa in the thumbnail, I click. And it's like, yeah, those are the real ones. So yeah, the level E portion of this video is what the whole video I think should have been to some degree. It gives you the whole idea of what the character is. It goes into, like, okay, who is Mikisa? What are they about? Like what is his character? What is the meaning behind his character? The whole idea of, like the blending of like gender identity and like sexuality and how like, I really liked how it was all portrayed, how like, because people don't see him as the gender he, they don't see him as like who he is. He faces a lot of like, what's the word? This is also why like talking about this just off the cuff on a live stream is maybe not the best idea. And like I tried to do preparation for it, but I'm just scatterbrained anyway. So, like he faces homophobia despite not being gay because he's a man. Like he's a trans man who is attracted to women. So that does not make him gay. But like he still has to deal with, misconceptions rooted in homophobia as well as transphobia. And, talking about like how the series presents that. And I give you the full context of who is Mikisa, what is Mikisa about, what does his character have to say regarding gender and just regarding Togashi's general sort of, Togashi's general idea of the unknown. And, it also ties into whole things, like Level E is a series. I didn't get into it as much in the video itself, but Level E is very much a series focusing on, really, that's just Togashi's work in general. It does a lot of focusing on the unknown, and, Level E very much has, like, all these alien races that come in, and Togashi does, it's a thing, it's a theme, it's a whole thing. But with Yu Yu Hakusho, I don't provide that context with Miyuki. Like, I think I offer some, but I assume that you have seen Yu Yu Hakusho. I assume that you have seen Hunter x Hunter. Or not even just that you've seen it, but that like you remember the scene in question. And so in that sense, I'm kind of cutting off a certain degree of the audience there. Because I remember like how Shabes had said it, like he hadn't seen Yu Yu Hakusho in a while. And he's like, I don't remember what happened in the scene with this character. Did I change my mind about how Togashi handled the characters? I did not. It's not a case of like I changed my mind and I disagree with like the premise of the video or like the conclusion of it. It's just more that like I think it could have been like phrased better, or like with the Yu Yu Hakusho stuff, I don't fully like introduce the character. I should be looking at my notes. I'm just ignoring them, and that's why I'm going off into the weeds. So here's a thing. Like if I wanted to potentially redo the intro for this video, I start off by referencing Trouble Quartet, which is like I only reference it visually, which I think is a bit of a missed opportunity. If I wanted to like redo the intro and make it like slightly less abrasive and just give you an idea of like, okay, why Togashi's trans characters? Like, why am I focusing on this author specifically? Trouble Quartet would have been like an interesting place to start. Because like, as he talks about in Yu Yu Hakusho Volume 1, it's a sports manga with, it has like cross-dressing, homosexuality, which, not necessarily, like, it's not irrelevant to the whole gender divergence, sexuality, LGBT themed stuff. Like, it's not irrelevant to the discussion. So if I had started there and gone like, okay, even before Yu Yu Hakusho, this is kind of where Togashi sort of started off. This is a potential manga he could have done, but it was rejected for various reasons. And then go from there into like, to get across the idea that like Togashi exploring gender in his manga is a thing that he does. It would have been like an extra sort of reinforcement, but I didn't factor it into the script. I just kind of used it as a visual reference, and it doesn't add the same weight or context that it could have. It's not fully realized. And I did mention this in the Shonen Shonen Jobber video, how like editing notes are a problem that I had. And in this video, there are like this one right here. I mean, like there is some stuff where like I was just having trouble not knowing what to use for footage because it's a very short scene. I had some issues with the Star Twinkle video of like trying to not repeat clips, but there was enough footage of this character to make it work. The Miyuki scene is even shorter, so like eventually I'm just like doing weird esoteric like clips are like layered over each other and it doesn't look great. But then there's like this, here's an editor's note. Look at how much text is on the screen here. And this isn't the only editor's note like that. Like there are this thing where there's like manga panels and I'm like, oh, well, here's it's another editor's note crammed into the side of the page. And there are a number of those. It's kind of all over the place. So like the fact that I felt the need to do so many different editor's notes, I think is enough to just kind of get across that the script needed a rewrite. It's more just like trying to make things a little clearer. And, even if people are still going to like disagree with the conclusions I make regarding it, I don't know. So with Yu Yu Hakusho, I didn't really offer enough context into like, what's the scene, I didn't really set the scene. With Aluka, there's also kind of the same problem where like the transition from Level E to Hunter x Hunter is pretty good because I immediately am just kind of I rattle off like a bunch of different examples. Like here's all the different ways that Hunter x Hunter plays with gender. So you've got like Kalluto, Pito, Kurapika, not saying that like these characters are trans necessarily, but that like they're sort of, like challenging expectations or, there's like a fluidity there or, they all have like their own different things going on. Some people went so far as to be like, oh, so you're saying Kurapika and Pito are trans. And it's like, no, you fool, learn to comprehend the things you're watching. And then, so, I talk about like, there's all these different characters that also kind of work with things and kind of set a precedent that Hunter x Hunter is doing things with gender, just like all the other iterations or all of Togashi's other works are doing. And then on the topic of gender, nowhere is that more apparent than in the case of Aluka and Nanika. Yeah, so it sets up Aluka and Nanika that like there's a thing here, and this is the part of the video where I should have. So what I ended up doing was I just was like, oh, Ember Reviews made a video. He's already talked about this. Go watch that video. Because I guess I didn't want to retread his ground when what I could have done was just set, what I should have done was like said, hey, here's kind of the idea of why is it not, it's supposed to be here. Where is it? The timeline isn't even showing the correct. Yeah, there it is. So I'm just like, watch the video if you haven't already seen it. Like if you think Aluka's a boy, just watch that video because you're wrong. And it's not like, because part of my argument does assume you've seen the video. Because, in that video, Ember talks about how, like here's a potential reading of this character, how like you could see the Zoldyx as this, the more traditional, sect of society, whereas like Aluka and Killuka, I'm just mixing words. Aluka and Killua are more of like the newer modern, so like tradition versus modernity sort of thing, and he kind of comes at it from that lens, and like, the video just would have been more fully realized if I had also incorporated that discussion, and just like I didn't want to just flat out like repeat his video verbatim, but I could have at least like built off of it and given him the credit like this is where I got this idea from, go watch the video because it's a good video. So I got like the reference the source part right, but I didn't actually like take anything from it. I just said, okay, you've seen the video, so now I can say my piece. Like I pretty much avoided trying to, like, I pretty much avoided a lot of the points that Ember had brought up, or I tried to steer away from them as much as I could because I didn't want to, like, retread ground that he had already discussed. And I think the video is worse off for it. So that was part of the issue. Like, I feel like this would be a video, especially now that I did the Bloom video, which is like a half an hour big piece that goes into like every nook and cranny of the perspective I was trying to get across. And I feel like the Togashi's trans characters video probably could have been better served by being longer. But again, like, this was the first time that I really attempted, not the first time outright, but like, it had been, you know, because I did like the Bloom video, but like talking about aromanticism and asexuality is a different beast compared to talking about like gender identity. And the last time I had really done it was in the Wandering Sun video, which was before I realized I was trans. So it was very much like, this video is about like my lack of understanding. And so like, I definitely had some insecurities going into that video. And I feel like, you know, that's part of why I'd also put off this potential topic for so long, because I knew that like, oh, it's going to be messy and I'm going to have to, you know, work to find like the best possible wording that I want to go for. Cause like, I don't want to get under people's skin. I don't want to like irritate anyone or alienate anyone, but, you know, it just is what it is. And, you know, because I made this video, I think I was able to better tackle like the Bloom video, even though they're slightly unrelated subjects. But, and of course, you know, to do more discussions along this topic in the future, I think this was a good experience. Would I make a video on trans characters in anime in general rather than from one series or one mangaka? I do have other ideas. This was also why, like, I started with Togashi, because this also ties into, I think, kind of a difference in opinion I have with, like, my most recent Star Twinkle video, as opposed to the video that it was very clearly kind of, like, building off of, which was the Cheetu video. It's more of, like, a comedy-themed kind of video, but still has, like, a poignant, like, or not poignant, that's not the word, because that's more like emotional. But, you know, it has like a serious like backing to it, but it is mostly just kind of like a, oh, look, you know, it's a character I appreciate on like an aesthetic level, and I think it's just fun. But I think the difference, like with talking about Hunter x Hunter specifically, perhaps Togashi's work more broadly, but specifically Hunter x Hunter, I have so many videos on the series even before Togashi month. You know, it was one of, like, part of the reason I made this anime channel was because I wanted to talk about Hunter x Hunter. Like, you know, the Gon Goku thematic breakdown, Kurapika Sasuke thematic breakdown. We did the natural progression of Hunter x Hunter, undervalued greatness of the first few episodes. So I'm no stranger to talking about Hunter x Hunter. And so if I make like a little jokey video like the Cheetu video, or, you know, focusing on such a minor side character who has barely any screen time in Kalluto, I feel like there's more basis for it. And the same goes for something more serious, like talking about, you know, LGBT themed stuff, identity, whatever have you. You know, it's like, why Togashi? Because Hunter x Hunter is like a core, you know, it has shaped who I am in a way. Like, it is a not insignificant factor on me as a person. So if I'm going to talk about gender and just, you know, those sort of topics in general, starting with Togashi is just kind of natural. And so I feel like I'm glad I made this video, and I do want to remake it because I think it can be better. But like, you know, I'm not just going to write it off completely. Like, the fact that I would revisit it at all says a lot about how much I want to get it right, because, you know, it could be a lot of my other videos in the past where I'm like, this video isn't good. This video doesn't hold up well. I just want to pretend it doesn't exist. Like, I don't want to do that with this video, because I put a lot of time and a lot of thought into this video. And, you know, just because I might have made a few little mistakes with it, doesn't mean that I should just like give up on it. Some other little things, could because there are a lot of notes here that I still haven't quite gotten to, and I'm looking at the notes now, and I'm like, maybe I'll just skip them because I already rambled enough. Yeah, I mentioned the editor's notes. Oh, that's a good point. Again, going back to the Yu Yu Hakusho stuff, the fact that the scene is so short, a lot of this video just sort of places everything on Togashi, but what I didn't really consider, and that some comments pointed out, was that, there could have been editor influence on, and it's not something I have, like, factual basis for, but I don't have factual basis against it either. Especially in, like, early 90s, Togashi hasn't established himself yet. The Miyuki scene, the Ogre Triad chapter, is, do I have it here? Oh, it doesn't have the chapter number, but it was, like, early 20s or 30s. It was, like, very early in the Yu Yu Hakusho's run. It was in, like, the first major saga, like, before the Dark Tournament. So Togashi was, he had already had a manga before Yu Yu Hakusho, but he's still relatively younger, relatively newer as a mangaka. This is his first, like, action series. So it's not impossible that there could have been editor influence, and that, given the times, maybe he wanted to do a little more with, put a little more focus on that topic, but he just didn't have the time, or he had, like, an original plan for it and it got cut down. Or there's also just the fact that the weekly manga grind is hell, and sometimes things get kind of underdeveloped because of that. And at that point, you can't hesitant to put the blame on the author and more just on, like, the manga industry in general. Like, it's really just for any mangaka. Like, if you look at, like, the art and you see, like, oh, this chapter was kind of a little off. Well, maybe they were having, like, some kind of health issue that they couldn't take a hiatus for, because the manga industry does not allow you to do that. If you are not, like, Oda, who has literally one of the biggest just, like, juggernauts in Japanese media, and, you have to be him to get, like, a weekly break, or not a weekly break. What is it? He gets, like, a week off a month or something. I forget what his schedule is, but, it's not a very forgiving industry. So there were a few other reasons as to why this scene might have been as short as it was. It might not have just been, purely, like, ignorance on Togashi's part, or I hesitate to use ignorance because that almost seems like it's, like, willful ignorance, but just the fact that, like, like, the way that he handles the characters later on seems like a bit more tasteful, and it's probably just, like, he had more time to engage with the matter and, a more well-developed perspective, I guess. Another thing that I thought would have been, like, an interesting thing to potentially bring up, and I kind of get at it with the video, but not fully. This again is just kind of a case of language. So, like, with Miyuki, it's very much focused on, like, the line that she says is, like, my body may be a man's, but in my heart, I'm a woman. That is very, it's very direct, and it's very much focused on, like, the physical. Like, it does have kind of, like, the idea of, like, the soul, but, like, with Aluka, how it might be, a potential point I could have brought up that I didn't think about either. But the fact that, like, the stigma of, like, gender identity disorder in Japan, it's very much, like, gender identity is very much tied into, like, medical, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. There's definitely, like, a medical connotation to it. And so the fact that nothing is really said about, like, oh, does Aluka, like, what is she? Like, there's not they don't worry about that at all. They don't consider it at all. You don't need a medical diagnosis to know, that Aluka is Aluka, that she is who she is. And so, like, that potentially from, like, a purely Japanese, like, cultural thing could have been an interesting point to bring up. But again, like, I could probably still look a little more into it. These are just, like, things that I thought of. There was also a little addendum I did down here because it was just, like, another slip of the tongue sort of thing. Like, I kind of knew what I was getting at, but I didn't phrase it properly. Like, I just assumed that my words meant what I was thinking they meant. Because I mentioned how with Mikisa, he refers to himself with ore as opposed to, like, boku or watashi or, any other self-referential word. And so, like, in the video, I had said that, like, oh, because he uses ore, that means he is, like, more definitively declaring his masculinity, which is not, like, 100% accurate. That's not technically true. That's, because, like, how did I phrase it here? Basically, like, I was getting at the idea that, like, you know, in anime and just, like, in fiction, there will occasionally be, like, girls who use boku. I believe there's even, like, a trope. I think the word is like bokuko, like a girl who uses boku. You know, like an example I can think of off of something I'm going through more recently is Gintama. There is can I remember her name? Shoot. Kyubei. She uses boku. But it's not, you know, like characters who do that, they're more like tomboyish. And so like I think what I was trying to get at with Mikisa is that it's not like he's just being a tomboy because he's not using boku, he's using ore. But again, like there's different reasons as to why someone would use, you know, like as far as formality and informality, and so it's like more nuanced than how I got it across in the video. So that's another thing that I would have needed to tweak. Like I have a little addendum here in the description. Basically like getting across the idea that like it's not as simple as, you know, he, she, and they. In English. Yeah, so it was like that could have been corrected. Yeah, there was like some other little things. Like I think there was also perhaps a degree to which like me kind of getting across personal biases as opposed to there are some little lines in here that I think are a little more indicative of like, you know, like again in the level E section they talk about like, oh, there's a line about male and female brains, and I'm like, oh, I'm kind of skeptical of that because you know, it's again like tying back into that like scientific as opposed to just like taking it at face value and just like, you know, like just considering like the people in front of you, like there has to be some sort of justification for it. But I understand that like there is what is the word I'm looking for? I don't know, like that I think is a bit more of a difference between like saying like, you know, talking about Miyuki and how like it doesn't consider really like non-binary genders, which again I did offer a little bit of like context as like X gender didn't really seem to start like taking off until I think it was like the late 90s, so that wouldn't have even really been much in the zeitgeist, so Togashi might not have even known about that. But there's like a difference between looking at it from that perspective and then, you know, also like saying like, here's a thing that I'm like kind of skeptical of personally, because like that's not how I personally approach gender. But it with like all the context of it, it might sort of lump together and build into this thing that I'm saying like, oh, any connotations of, you know, medicalism regarding gender has like zero basis, or that I don't know, it's complicated and I'm doing a bad job of like trying to get across what I'm trying to say off the top of my head. I think also part of why I'm hesitant to talk about these subjects in a main channel video is that like, you know, generally like when I'm just kind of existing and just vibing, I'm kind of like, yeah, you know, it's kind of interesting to talk about this stuff with other people and just like a casual setting and just kind of bounce ideas off of people. But when like I try to make a video about it, then I got to be like super extra careful because you know, like if I'm talking to a friend and I slip up and say something weird or imply something weird, you know, I think they'll have a better, I don't know, I'm not coming off as like any sort of authority on it. But when I try to make a video, even if I say like I'm just a YouTuber, I'm just a person, I'm no authority, there's still a degree to which I guess like, I don't know, the artifice of the video, the content creator, it kind of inherently comes off that way. I don't know. You know, like some of the responses, sometimes with the comments, I get a little tripped up because I'm not sure. Like people will say the things that I was thinking, like when I made the video, and I'm like, are they saying this to like disagree with me? Did they think that's not what I was saying? Or, you know, or like, so I'm bad at sometimes like reading tone in comments, but there were a couple, like there was one that, but yeah, this person basically, you know, there's a lot of words here, but the gist of it is that, you know, like they don't fault a writer for not deliberately setting aside a space for the full, well, I'll just quote it directly. I don't know why I need to like sum it up. But yeah, like when it comes to this stuff, I don't fault a writer for not deliberately setting aside a space for the full exploration of the issue in order to make the entire spectrum of those involved feel fully represented. I also don't think it's the responsibility of the writer to neatly define which aspects are a reflection of the writer's views or an expression of the character they've created. Yeah, it goes off into different examples. And, you know, there is also a point to Yusuke specifically and how, like, you know, he has kind of a rough upbringing and why he would be, you know, why he would address things the way that he does. And so there's, like, a point to, you know, like, the series being unkind to the trans character is, you know, similar to how, like, the series is unkind to Yusuke. And so, like, there are a bunch of little points like that, which I thought were worth considering. It's basically, you know, I tend to not generally, like, even if something is quote unquote problematic in a piece of media, like, I tend to just appreciate that they tried at all to incorporate the subject. And, you know, there are instances where I dislike something because I really don't like how they handled the material they were doing, or I thought it was messy enough that it was like, don't agree with that conclusion. But generally, like, when it's just a matter of, you know, like, if someone tried, and, like, you know, they put it in their material at all, I think it's pretty cool, and I like that. And that's kind of like what I was, like, the thesis of the video was, you know, Togashi tried, and over time, he kind of seemed to get, I don't know. I guess it's also, like, from my subjective perspective, like, oh, he got better at representing things. You know, like, he was able to set aside more time and more of a space for it. But I don't know. Yeah, there's more that I would like to say in the future with not just Togashi stuff. I would like to do more videos on this topic. Definitely scripted. Definitely not on stream because I feel like I've scared everybody away. I've scared myself even. This got awkward. So let's talk about something really lighthearted. Let's talk about the Kalluto video. This is a good follow-up to the trans characters video and a nice lead-in to the Cheetu video. That's the thing I like about Togashi Month is that a lot of the topics, they all, like, it all flows into each other. It's never just like, oh, I just decided to make a video about gender, and then, oh, let's just talk about a random character, and oh, let's talk about another random character. No, there's a connection, there's a through line to it. Like, we go from the gender to a character who is also has some stuff going on regarding gender, but also they're, like, a relatively minor character who explores, like, some interesting aspects of the series, and then that leads into Cheetu, another minor character who explores some interesting thematic implications of the series, specifically with Cheetu about well, you know, the Cheetu video is about, you know, individuality and desire and, you know, kind of like focusing on the training and stuff and appreciating the detours and putting in the work to get the thing you want, which then ties into the Gon Kurapika video, which is exploring their conflicting ideologies, how one character, you know, appreciates those detours, the other takes shortcuts, and, you know, kind of where that leads them. And then that leads into the friendship video, which ties it up nicely. So it was all a really good, everything tied into each other well. I really, other than that one video, I don't have any real, like, major complaints about Togashi Month. The Kalluto video was interesting. I thought that this was, again, like, the edit kind of taking on a life of its own. Because, like, it starts off talking about the Zoldyck family and the Phantom Troop and how they're both kind of these wild cards in the story. So it's, like, a little bit of, like, talking about, like, the storytelling, artificial, you know, them as, like, a plot device or as, like, a, you know, an object through which to convey the story, I guess. And, you know, comparing them to the Zoldyck family, who are also this group of characters who can kind of show up at, you know, at any time, anywhere. And so kind of showing how they're different. Like, so the compare and contrast, how, like, the Zoldyck family is very bound by tradition, whereas the Phantom Troop is much more free and willing to let characters be individuals, take the title of the video. And Kalluto is in this interesting middle ground where they go from, like they are in the middle of these two wild cards. Like they go from a family very entrenched in tradition to the Phantom Troop, who is all about like freedom and kind of doing whatever they want. And so again, like a potential idea of like found family there. And if Ellie is still in the stream, they would know that I like just this initially started off as like me just rambling to them in a DM of like, here's all the things about why Kalluto is interesting, and look at the family chart of the Zoldycks, and there's like a thing, and so it's like this seemed like one of those topics that kind of more like the Star Twinkle video where I might have some insecurities after having made it, because it's like, what's the big point of the video? Am I just kind of talking about a nothing character? Is there any real like substance to it? But no, like there was substance to this video. And like I said, it worked well, bridging the gap between the trans characters and the Cheetu video. As far as the edit I was mentioning, where's the part? Okay, I don't know where it started, but I do this whole thing with like this color filter, and there's like a red and a blue thing, which is not something I envisioned when I wrote the script. I just kind of did it in editing. I thought it was something interesting to try, to kind of get this whole idea of like, they each have kind of like their own negativity to it, but these different like driving forces for Kalluto, like wanting to be, the admiration for Killua, who is the chosen son, who's kind of the centerpiece of the family, and how Kalluto is always kind of stuck living in his shadow, versus Alluka, who is like the inverse of that. She is the outcast. She is the black sheep. She is the one that is confined off and is like the opposite of the centerpiece. She is I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but like she is not appreciated, but she is like Killua matters in a good way, a positive way. Like the family wants to like support him and have him like not. Obviously, it's like a negative kind of support because it's not about him being who he wants to be. It's about him being who they want him to be. But they hold him in high regard, and Alluka is the opposite of that. But by being the opposite of that, she gets all the negative attention. So she gets attention, which is still better than like what Kalluto has, which is nothing. Kalluto is just completely ignored, the youngest child, and granted, like this is the more speculative of my videos. It's more just kind of like taking it off into a, things that could be interesting to see explored. A little bit of theory crafting, a little bit of things I'd like to see, or but it's not completely without basis for the material that is in the story, because you have the little family chart, you have just the general dynamic of the Zoldyck family is fleshed out really well. And so imagining where Kalluto fits into that is not difficult at all. So yeah, I did like some of the edits here. I still would like to see that. That'd be for some cool fan fiction. It's the fan art. The fan art spoiled me. Maybe I would have been able to better explain the red and the blue like initially after I first made it, because there's definitely something with like the Zoldycks of how like, they're an evil influence. So you know what, I get it. I don't know if I thought of it at the time, but it's how I'm interpreting it now. So if the red, the admiration is like the Killua side of things, it's very much baked in like what the Zoldycks focus on. That's the red, and so it's like the bad. It's the Kalluto It's not the individuality, it's the tradition. It's all the emphasis on what do the Zoldycks want? How is the best way to serve the family? Whereas like Alluka is the jealousy, the individuality, the negativity, the things that the Zoldycks dislike, that they're afraid of. And so the Phantom Troop kind of embodies that as this organization, which is, they do what they want. They are free. They can be individuals. And like even as a collective unit, they don't quash the spirit of the individual, which is, ties into the conclusion with Pakunoda and how like, the spider can survive without its head, but see, that's also something I want to like be careful of too. Like I don't want to go off too much on the video, because then it's like I'm just repeating what the video said. Like, god damn it. One of the things that I could have potentially factored in. Like, it's not my interpretation, but when I mention the stuff regarding Kalluto's gender, and how, like, oh, my headcanon is that, like, they're non-binary, or not non-binary. I specifically said X gender in the video because that's more accurate. But how, like, they're neither. And, you know, so, like, if I was gonna... I did mention that it was, like, just going off of, like, fan speculation that the jealousy for Alluka could be connected to their gendered presentation. There is also a theory that because Kalluto hangs around Kikyo, their mother, so much, that that's part of it. Like, there's this theory that, you know, because the Zoldycks, you know, their family was a family of sons, but, you know, they want... Like, she might want a daughter, and so, like, that's why Kalluto... I don't know how that really factors into, like, the theme of the other, and how, like, Alluka's, you know, being divergent is, like, a bad thing, but Kalluto would... So, again, but it still would have been worth mentioning as, like, a potential theory that people have. Like, if I'm going to make a dedicated video to Kalluto, you'd think that, like, it could have fit in here somewhere, but I didn't really consider it. I do really like, as well, how the video ends. Mainly just because, like, the music is very dramatic. See, this is a case where the dramatic edit works. It doesn't... I don't think it really, like, undermines my point or anything. Because, like, it gives it a real weight. Like, the music and the edits and, you know, getting up to, like, the blue and the red, and it's, like, Kalluto torn between two sides, and it gives it a real, like, weight and drama to it, but in a way that's good, and it's I like it. And there was also, like, potentially a point that I could have brought up. Like, I could have done a little more research into the... What is it that they wear? Where is the manga panel? Because I mention it in, like, an editor's note again. The Furesode. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But, you know, like, the kimono that they wear. How, like, historically... you know, and this is a thing, like, I looked it up... basically, like, going to Wikipedia and then, like, you know, following the links that they've sourced. So I guess maybe with a grain of salt, but how, like, you know, it was historically, you know, just a thing that children, regardless of gender, of wealthier families would wear. But, like, there is, like, a feminine coding to it, especially, like, the scene in Chimera Ant where the Chimera Ant is, you know, they're like, oh, well, like, what are you doing here, little girl? But, or I think that's how it goes. But yeah, but, like, you know, oh, here it is, yeah, how, like, this Chimera Ant is like, oh, this must be a little girl, but it's like, Kalluto, is that true? So yeah, there's some cool things there, even for a character that has, like, no screen time. I was able to talk about them for, like, 8 minutes, and I like this video. I don't think it was bad. Yes, it is what Kalluto deserves. Kalluto deserves everything. Togashi, write more chapters so I can get more Kalluto, please. But yeah, the Cheetu video is, so it is, like, you know, to again look at the Kalluto video and look at the most recent Star Twinkle video did, well, more specifically, like, comparing the Dog Girl video to the Cat Boy video. Clearly one is objectively better because cat boys are... No. But, like, so they both kind of start from the same place of, you know... It's a more comedic video. It's more, like, aesthetically driven video. Like, oh, I like the character design. But, like, I think with the Cheetu video, I just do a better job of weaving in, like, the serious bits and the comedic bits. And I feel like there's just more density to it, if that's kind of the word I'm looking for. Because, like, it's not just... Like, the premise of the video, Peak Dumbass, which is, I think, still my favorite title I've made for a YouTube video. It sums him up perfectly. But the video isn't just Cheetu is a dumbass, and I think he's kind of cute. Like, that's not all the video boils down to. There's the whole... there's a point about, like, how Cheetu being this goofy character in the Chimera Ant arc, which is one of the, like, darker arcs in the series, one of the more serious... So he's good for, like, tonal balance. He can provide this, like, you know, he provides some levity in an arc where there is not that much levity, or not even much room for it. There is also, you know, sort of, deconstructing the premise of this is just a video about a character that I appreciate on an aesthetic level, because like he himself is someone who only cares about techniques that look flashy, as opposed to like being willing to, you know, put in the work and like the training and, you know, building up to the you know, contrasting him to the boys who go through all these training arcs. Heaven's Arena, they fight these guys. Yorknu, they talk to Zapile, and that gives them the techniques to go against the Phantom Troop. And so, like, it's again, like, looking at the detours and, you know, doing the training, Greed Island being constructed to as, like, a way for characters to develop their nen. So they do all the work, and it is only after, like, 200 chapters, or, like, 80 episodes, whatever I did for the editor's note, you know, they put in so much time to finally get those flashy abilities. And so it's just the real contrast that Cheetu, his abilities just handed to him. So there's a style versus substance point there. I already mentioned the tone. He also works to flesh out other new characters. Like, Morel... We gotta play the scene.
For granted.
One of my favorite edits. I love it so much. But yeah, like, Morel would not come off as much of the, you know, like the cool, badass uncle figure, the wise hunter that he is, if you didn't pair him up with such a goofy buffoon as Cheetu, someone who is so incompetent at everything he does. So he works as well for, like, playing off the other characters and fleshing out dynamics for them. Most notably Morel. And, you know, also, like, the fact that the fight is just, especially fleshing out Morel as a teacher and how he has these students like Knuckle and Shoot. Like, in beating Cheetu in this fight, he is still, like, explaining to Cheetu, like, this is what you did wrong. And it's not just in this fight, you know, even when he has his little showdown with Knuckle and Morel earlier, he's like, oh, you're getting blinded by rage, you're not paying attention to your surroundings. And so he's, like, giving that advice to the guy in the middle of, like, so he's like trying to teach his enemy, which I think is really neat, and it really says a lot about, like, Morel's character. But without somebody like Cheetu, what does that bounce off of? It's not as much something that is easy to appreciate. That was not the best way to phrase that. There's also the point to it about how, you know, nen is handled differently in this arc, and how, like, the Chimera Ants being just given their nen undermines that core theme of the series, and how they contrast sort of the theme up to that point of, like, working for the things, you know, the detours and that sort of thing. I talked about it better in the video. There's also, like, the point at the end about the mid-battle power-up, and so I'm able to talk about it on, like, a meta level as far as other shonen go. You know, like, Cheetu, as much as he's a dumbass, he's also a genius, because he's able to develop this power on the fly in the middle of a battle, and it's just useless. It's slower than he is. So it's like he has the talent to just do great things, like come up with a power on the fly in the middle of a fight that could change everything, and he just doesn't. His talents are squandered because he's a fucking idiot, and I love him. He is great. But yeah, so basically this video, it's more than just that aesthetic premise. Like, there's a lot packed into it, and I think the video kind of balances it all really well. And, you know, it's short, so it kind of has, like, the brevity to it as well. And of course, setting up the thing of, like, individuality. Like, with the nen system, you can have powers, you know, any power you want. You can construct it however you want. You can take shortcuts if you want. And so, like, with Cheetu, he took his shortcuts, and just didn't think anything through, because he can only see things on a surface level, and that's why he failed. That's why he was such a useless character, because he was incapable of any serious self-evaluation, as I said in the video itself. So yeah, He's incompetent. He's dumb. I love him. He's my favorite. It's a good video. And of course, you get the little dramatic segue where there's even like a little bit of like, oh, do I just exist to be someone else's distraction? Am I just... So there's like a YouTube meta triple layer because like it sets up the Karapika Gon video while also taking a jab at me. Yeah, it's real galaxy brain shit right here. Yeah, so this video was interesting, I guess, in that like it was a throwback to an old series that long forgotten. I had not made both these videos came out in 2017. So like if there was any value in this concept, it's long lost. Nothing more to do with it, except for this video, which is also an idea that I had sitting in my head since like around the same time period that I made these. Didn't have anything written for it. I just knew that there was like something going on with Gon and Karapika. And even if I didn't know what that was back in 2017, I had enough wherewithal to like, I had like the Google Doc with the title for it, like the title of this video. This would have been the thing for it. And that might have been all the notes that I had on it. But like, it was enough to keep the idea in the back of my mind. And then eventually we revisited the manga for Hunter x Hunter, for the Nen show rather. And it clicked and I knew it. I'm like, yep. We're focusing on like desire and individuality and the Nen system and the actions the characters take. And it's just a good Hunter x Hunter video. I'm a little disappointed that it didn't... This video I expected to be the most popular of the month, to be honest. I was surprised when the Cheetu video, it held the top spot for a while. Then the trans characters video had to go and overtake it, but it's fine. He's still the king to me. The toxic friendship video was interesting. I keep referring it to that, even though I changed the title, because like for the whole time I had this video was another one that I had in mind for several years. Like the idea was in my head. Even if a script wasn't written, I knew, like I had the general idea of where I was going to take the script. Vaguely was like in my mind for a couple years. So that one in particular, like the fact that I changed the title upon publishing it, it still doesn't fully register because I've always thought of it as like this is what the idea was going to be, because it's like the power of friendship, but darker, but there's a twist to it. But yeah, I thought the Gon Karapika video was going to be the highest performing video because like just knowing like it's very much in the realm of like, the Alexander style of like, looking at the core themes of the series and like what is this series about, and looking at two of its biggest characters. Maybe the thumbnail is just garbage. I see, like I don't know how to make a good thumbnail because like like they say the thumbnail matters. Sometimes I don't even know. Like, I can put effort into a thumbnail and have it like I can put effort into a thumbnail and have it not mean anything because I guess it's a bad thumbnail. I don't know. I don't know the YouTube metagame. I've been on this platform for 8 or 9 years. Really? I don't think so. I feel like I just started yesterday. But yeah, so like I don't know if like the purple and green-ish yellow just kind of looks bad. I don't know. I don't know why this video didn't. Like I thought it would have at least hit 100K. Like all the I did not think the Cheetu video would perform this well. The Kalluto video I didn't think would hit 50K. So like YouTube is always this just like what is the... I don't think Russian roulette is the word I'm looking for, where it's like this might blow up or this might just kind of fly under the radar. Like I never know. Like I wouldn't have assumed that the Bloom video would perform as well as it did, but here we are. 68,000 people watched it for some reason. Whereas like, oh, the Hunter x Hunter video hits at my core audience, even more so than just being a shonen video. It's a Hunter x Hunter video. I've made like 1 billion Hunter x Hunter videos. So like people, if there's anything that this channel has like an identity centered around, it's Hunter x Hunter. And especially like being the thematic content, I did like my Talk No Jutsu video was my big magnum opus as far as like, this is my brand, this is what I do. And it just, meh. Like I'm not bitter about it, because like I had 3 other videos that month hit 100K. I'm good. Like, you know, like I don't make the videos to. It's just more of like the observing. Like as a content creator, I shouldn't like not give a shit about how videos perform. Like I should try to do what I can to make them work. But I don't know how it works. So like, what can I do? I kind of am just a passive observer, and it's like, oh, okay, this video didn't do as well as I thought. This one did better than I thought. Okay, yeah, we'll just kind of roll with it. Yeah, so like maybe the thumbnail is bad. I don't know. I don't know what I could have done differently. Especially because like the other thematic breakdown videos are some of the more popular on the channel. Now, granted, they came out like going on 4 years ago. Like I don't know, maybe because it's more of a close up on the face and they're looking at the camera and not like to the side. Or there's more like striking color design to it. Whereas like with this video, the purple kind of works, but this yellow is kind of, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just kind of spitballing. Yeah, so this one also there's just some cool edits to it. Like I don't think there's really anything about this video on a fundamental level that I dislike. I literally have no notes. Even though I just went over this video the other day, I have no notes on it because there's just like nothing I could think about to like change it, or like there's nothing that I think is fundamentally like wrong about it. Even like language wise, I don't think anything really needs to be tweaked much. So it starts off with like, oh haha, we're gonna play the quote again. You know, it's almost like, you know, this video has like the series of videos has a theme throughout it. Like it's almost like I wrote them all together for the intent of putting them out as like one big project, like a bunch of mini projects contained within a big project. And it's like about enjoying the little detours, and you get the references to all the videos. There was the trans characters video, Kalluto, Cheetu, and then the little reference at the end alluding to the friendship video, which came out like a month later, but was still part of the process. Guess there are some other things I thought were kind of neat. I like this edit because, you know, this was actually pretty easy because all I had to do was just like chroma key out the white, because this was just like a purely white nothing, just a pure white void. And so I just like, okay, we'll just cut that out and boom. Then it's like, Kurapika's the protagonist now, baby. Get out of here, gone. Nobody cares about you. Go away. Can you tell I've been going for a while? I'm losing my mind here. You know, this one does have spoilers, so I'm not going to get like too deep into like replaying the video, but you know, it's just like, for the most part though, like talking about like where Kurapika's material put him to begin with, like as far as Yorknu goes. I don't know if Ellie's still in the chat, so I don't want to get too in depth about the the Succession War. But even then, like I only know that one person has definitely not read it. I don't know if anyone else has read past, so I'll be careful not to. I don't know how deep this video goes into it actually, but I did like the little editing trick here. Because, you know, basically like sets up the point about like, you know, here's kind of Gon's deal, and, you know, talking about the difference between like him and Kurapika. But then when it really shifts over to Kurapika's material, which it'll get there.
He possesses a purpose without letting it possess him.
Oh, that's right. There are some just really good, like, well-written lines in this video. Like, he possesses a purpose without letting it possess him. And again, talking about, like, the Nen system between Gon and, like, how Gon and Kurapika use the system. Was it even one of the top? Yeah, it was one of the top comments. One character achieves within his limits, the other limits what he can achieve. There you have it. Yeah, one appreciates the detours, one takes the shortcuts. And of course, when we talk about Kurapika, I had been working with like a whole month just on Hunter x Hunter footage. I had to spice it up. This was really the only video that I was going to get the opportunity to do that. Because it's focusing on like the Yorknu arc. And so like, okay, let's use some 1999 footage. So I did like that from a visual standpoint. Also because like until I get to that Hunter x Hunter comparison series, which... why do I keep talking about it? I just want people to forget that forget any project I've ever advertised, because is it gonna happen? At least with Hunter x Hunter, there's like I'm never gonna, like, I don't ever stop thinking about Hunter x Hunter, so if it's a Hunter x Hunter project, it's never truly, like, off the books. You know, I am going through 1999, so, like, going through that, and also going through the 2011 anime again with roommates. Yeah, it could happen. Maybe 2020, like, I think in, like, 2019, I said it might happen in 2020, and, like, in 2020, I said it might happen in 2021 or something, but, like, 2022, maybe, you know, it'll depend on how quickly I can go through these different adaptations, but, it's still on the books. It could happen. But so yeah, like, until that series happens, when am I ever going to have the opportunity to edit with 99 footage? And yeah, so this also, that little point about, like, how he gets this little break in Yorknew where it's like, oh, the troop is dead. So he doesn't have to, you know, like, he doesn't have to worry. He can move on with his life and just focus on getting the eyes of his clan, and he can live in the light. He doesn't have to go to the darkness. But that was kind of a callback to the Sasuke Kurapika thematic breakdown, because I mentioned how Sasuke gets that moment with Itachi in part 2, and Sasuke goes a completely different route compared to Kurapika. Like, and so that kind of highlights a difference in their characters. I do think ultimately this was probably, like, the best iteration of my thematic breakdown thing. Part of that being because the other ones were written 3 years ago, and they're written about as well as a video from me 3 years ago could be, which is to say, very flawed. But it's also, like, they are comparison videos, so even if the whole point of the premise was not to say, like, oh, one is better, it was very much looking at, like, what each character did for each story and kind of appreciating it on that lens. The Gon and Goku video having one of the best edits in my channel. The ending of that video, I have not done many edits as good as that one. The Cheetu video, you know, the edit with the guitar, is that maybe better? Depends. Like, is the Cheetu edit funnier than that one was, like, dramatic and, like, gut-wrenching? I don't know. But, yeah, so I think, you know, the fact that I'm able to just stick within the confines of Hunter x Hunter, it's not going to elicit the same comparisons as, like, oh, X is better than Y. Like, you could do that and be like, oh, is Gon a better character than Kurapika? But that didn't happen in the comments because, like, you don't get that same kind of mentality as you do, like, with comparing different stories that, like, oh, one's got to be better than the other, right? We can't just appreciate both for what they do in their own right. No, one's got to be better. We have to put something down to put our favorites up. So yeah, that was an unfortunate byproduct of specifically this one. The Sasuke Kurapika video, the comments section was just all, like, Sasuke's bad, Kurapika good, or, you know, there might have been a couple which were, like, Sasuke good, Kurapika bad, but it was, and even in, like, my pinned comment, I was like, hey, this comment section is kind of garbage. Actually, I could probably pull up that pinned comment. How did I... That's also an idea I could do for a stream. Like, specifically, at some point I probably will revisit the SAO abridged video and talk about why it's garbage. No, it's actually just the first line. Okay. Basically, I stand by most of what I said about Kurapika, but I think I could have done a better job describing Sasuke here. Many of the comments on this upload talk about how Kurapika is the better character for XYZ reasons, but if I had done a better job at defending Sasuke the first time, maybe things could have been a bit more neutral. Then again, maybe not. I'm not psychic. So I guess, like, yeah, it's also, like, I do the thing where it's like, I can show you, like, what my bias is. Like, yeah, I do prefer Sasuke to Kurapika, or I do, that's backwards. Good thing I didn't finish that, so nobody can clip that and be like, Naruto, best, anyway. Kurapika, yeah, you know, I do prefer Kurapika to Sasuke, but, like, that had nothing to do with the video, really. Like, there are certain cases where I feel like, oh, maybe it's worth, like, showing my bias, just to, like, give an idea of where I'm coming from, but generally I think I'm pretty good at, like, writing so that that's never necessary, and if anything, it only undercuts my point. But yeah, like, it was so bad that, like, even in the addendum to this video, I was like, yeah, I don't agree with what the comments are saying here. I'm just looking through some of this 99 footage, and I'm like, I'm excited to get back to this. Because there's some stuff that I'm excited to revisit, and I'm excited for the person I'm watching it to see for the first time. Because some of the Hunter x Hunter 99 has some good visuals. It's good. See, that has also been like an interesting thing with revisiting it, is that like even the early material, which on my first viewing I thought was kind of slow to adapt the material, it's actually just good. It does like a lot of anime original stuff, but it's just good anime original content. Like, it's not even like no caveat, like it is just good. That'll be a fun. The adaptation series will be fun because like so very often I see, like, I'm going way off on a tangent, but you're probably interested in this because we're talking mostly about Hunter x Hunter content anyway. Most of the time when I see people talking about the different adaptations, it's like, oh, one is better than the other, right? So it's very much like back in on the comparison stuff. And so you have people who are like, 2011 is the one most people are familiar with. So we got to push back on that and be like, no, 99 is better because it's got better artistic direction and better visuals, and Hunter x Hunter 2011 just has shit artistic direction and it bad. It's like, what are you doing? You're butchering the material. Which is like, well, hold on, that's too far. Because like Hunter x Hunter 2011, I don't think it like I would agree that I don't think it's as visually interesting, like consistently visually interesting, or Hunter x Hunter doesn't have like the anime original content either. It's a more faithful adaptation of the story. But they're different for different reasons. And so yeah, that'll just be a fun video to go into, because like I'm not gonna pick a side. I'm the fence sitter. I'm just like, hey, they're both good. Like, we Hunter x Hunter fans are blessed to have two amazing adaptations of an amazing manga. So stop picking fights. Stop trying to say one's better than the other, and just like appreciate what we have. If you like one and not the other, just appreciate the one that you have. Let's all love Hunter x Hunter. Let's all love Lane. Anyway, hey, Hoodie, the enlightened centrist. Pick a side, coward. Oh no, I'm a Hunter x Hunter centrist. Is that what I am? Oh no. I mean, this is gonna be one of those cases again where it's like, I do have a bias, but will it hurt my argument, or will it help my argument if I pick a side? And then also just kind of save that for another time. This video also has a good thing. Like, we get a nice quote where it's like Kurapika, the whole like, oh, I don't fear death. And then, Gon paralleling that. And so I like the video a lot because it shows like how the characters influence each other. Kurapika's kind of more negative influence on Gon, and Gon trying to like bring Kurapika to the light, and that sort of stuff. It's just a good video. I'm sorry I didn't have any other notes on it because I like it too much. This is one of the rare videos where I just like unabashedly like it, and don't have a reason to cut it down in any way. Self-confidence. That's a weird feeling. Yeah, there's some stuff about Greed Island. This is also interesting because I'm editing a video for somebody else. I won't say who. They're also very much going in on like something similar to kind of this video, but talking more on like the Greed Island side of it, and it brings up some other points that I don't mention here. I have taken forever to edit it, though. It would have been a good companion piece to go with this. But 2020 was a year. Anyway, then power of scribbled over text flawed friendship in Hunter x Hunter.
Darkness and light.
Which also, so, because I have to, right? Like, all my videos are connected. Like, I don't know where this started, because I think this started around the time, so like AX 2019 happened, and I did the Comic Girls video. Then the plan was to do this Broly video, and it was going to be part of like a 3-part sort of like mini series sort of thing, like not a series, but like they would have connected to each other in some way. Because after this, I wanted to do a video on like canon and like the importance of it, and how talking about like anime original content, and basically that discussion was going to like bridge the gap from Broly and talk about, Dragon Ball Minus and the stuff with not episode of Bardock, but whatever Bardock's special is called. I don't remember the name of it. But it was going to kind of talk about that and sort of like segue from the Dragon Ball discussion. It was going to talk about canon, which is then going to segue to like non-canon material and set up the Shonen filler movie video that I am working on right now. But obviously, for various reasons, that didn't work out. That fell through. But I think that was kind of where I got the idea to just like weave narratives in between videos. And the Jobber video is kind of self-contained, but Togashi month was where it really took off. Because obviously I made all 6 of these videos in one batch, and they were all, I wrote them all in one batch, I guess I should say. Because like obviously the editing was spaced out a little more because it took me time. And that's like the one thing where like because of the pandemic, my work was closed for 2 weeks. So the Togashi month would not have happened if not for the fact that I had 2 weeks off of work to do that. Well, which is not to say like, oh, 2020 good. Real glad we're glad we're dealing with what we are now. But silver lining, I guess. But yeah, so then once I did Togashi month, I knew that like, okay, I had the whole thing about darkness and light, and I knew that there was the interview with Nakatani and her editor where they're like, they mentioned the whole idea of like the heroine and like the light and dark dynamic, and they not deliberately, that's not the word. They directly reference Hunter x Hunter and Gon and Killua. And I was like, well, okay. I already have this point talking about darkness and light. Rather than just using more Hunter x Hunter footage, why don't I just reference some other things? And so like there's the reference to Naruto. It does kind of also have the paralleling footage with Gon and Killua. How like, oh, Gon is the light, Killua is the darkness. But obviously there's way more to it than that. Gon is not very good light, and Killua is not the darkness that he thinks he is. And so it's like a really interesting dynamic, and it's just a good video. Again, like it's another video I don't really have any issues with it. Like, oh, the power of flawed friendship, but the video is perfect. No flaws to be seen. That's too much self-confidence. Now I'm just getting an ego. I'm the perfect YouTuber. Anyway, yeah, so like I was able to use Bloom Into You for footage for the intro because it worked. It was relevant, and I knew I wanted to reference. It's like I've done in the other videos with baby steps. Like it was an excuse to recommend Bloom Into You in a Hunter x Hunter video, and especially the fact that like I made that thematic parallel through the interview. It wasn't like baseless. Like I had a source. I had reason to make the connection, and so maybe that would give people more incentive to check it out. I don't know if anybody did, because like when I made the Bloom video, my core audience, it bombed, and then it hit the algorithm, and YouTube worked some black magic, and it's one more and it'll be nice. But for now it's at 68,000 views. But yeah, so I did like that I was able to do that, because like it was like this became the epilogue to Togashi month in a way. Like it wasn't about Togashi, but as far as like a personal journey and building off of that, I thought it was cool. But I'm getting ahead of myself. What notes did I have on the... Oh, that was basically... I basically only had 2 notes about this video. There was the thing about the title that people weren't super... it was giving people the wrong impression going into it. So I changed it, which coincidentally was when the video stopped blowing up, because it had like 100,000 views in like the first 4 or 5 days, and then it died. Which I don't know if that was because I changed the title, or if it just happened to die at the same time that I changed the title, or shortly around that time frame. I don't know. I know I've seen other YouTubers change their titles and thumbnails to mixed results. Sometimes the video catches fire out of nowhere because of that. Sometimes nothing happens. And then I'm just like, wait, I don't recognize this video, but I've seen this video. You cheater, you deceived me. Yeah, so basically I changed it because a lot of people were seeming to disagree with the idea that, like, their friendship is toxic at all. Or that the word, specifically the word toxic, was too strong of a descriptor. Yeah, I even did have, like, a little note in the comments, that, like, the title comes off as a bit harsh. People said that it kind of carries across the wrong impression of the video, because even though my video kind of refutes the idea that their friendship is bad and that, like, Gon is a bad person and Killua deserves better, like, they bring out the best in each other, but that doesn't mean that it's, like, a perfect friendship. It's not, like, entirely all positive. Like, there is a darkness to that. And so it was, like, pointing out the toxicity of, like, the light and dark dynamic, that, like, one person can put the other on a pedestal. That doesn't work. So, like, I don't know. I guess I changed the title just so that people weren't getting, like, the wrong impression going into it. Like, they thought maybe I was condemning this friendship or that it was hostile and not watching the video, which, I don't know. Maybe I didn't have to change the title at all. But, for some people, it seemed like they were genuinely hurt by it, which just comes down to a disagreement in, like, how to use the word toxic or to talk about toxic friendships. I don't know. Like, I still think it fits the title. I still think it fits the video well, but, I'm fine with changing it. Like, I'm fine as it is now. Because, like, if people are going into it and, like, thinking I'm going to be negative about it and, like, not giving the video a chance on the basis of that title, I would rather just change it and give them a chance to see the whole thing out, because then they'll get my whole point about, like, what is toxic about the thing and, like, how they work through that and, like, what is important to consider and that sort of thing. Overall, I do not really have any issues with this video. It was just kind of like I had a bit of a hiccup with the title and Foreshadow the Bloom into You video. Those were the two main things. But it's again very much like the Thematic Breakdown video, where I had thought of it ahead of time, like, years in advance. This one, actually, this video started out as a comment response to Alexander's Killua video, but then that video got taken down and he had to repost it on his side channel. It got taken down for copyright. And so if I hadn't had the foresight to copy that comment and paste it in a Google Doc, this video might not have happened. I might have forgotten about it. So that was just kind of like a weird story about sort of the inception of this video. And of course I linked the Killua video in the description because, it was part of the inspiration for where the idea came from. Granted, it was like 2 years ago, but it's still relevant. Oh, right, yeah, because I was watching when I revisited the Gon and Kurapika video, I did really like, I was actually kind of getting chills at the ending. I don't know, I just really like my phrasing here. I think it's kind of poetic.
His target is forever moving, forever changing. As a hunter, he exists to hunt. Even if a point of satisfaction is reached, life goes on. The weight of that journey will fade as its conclusion falls further into the past, and so the cycle must begin anew. A desire for evolution breeds personal growth, yet it likewise means people will never be wholly satisfied with what they have. The solution isn't to have zero goals at all, but to look beyond that narrow scope. The setting doesn't revolve around any one person. There's an entire world of possibilities to explore, so no one should act as if their own perspective and aims transcend all.
And, like, the music in the background.
But focusing only on the future robs the present of its meaning. Living in the moment,
and the clip selection.
Overcoming the obstacles along the way. That's what truly gives the adventure value. Because the top of the mountain isn't the end. It's a brand new beginning. So for now, just enjoy the view.
I don't know, I like that. I really like that delivery. Like, generally, I have issues with my delivery. Like, I feel like it tends to be pretty dry and kind of flat because I'm bad at, like, manipulating my voice to sound dramatic. Like, even in the Bloom into You video where I tried to have some more dramatic line reads, I don't think it comes off really like that. It's like, it's something. But yeah, like the clip selection I thought was just really good, because talking about, like, how, like, excessive desire and, like, how that can consume you, and, matching that with footage of Hisoka, about, like, specifically the part where it's, like, focusing too much, being stuck in the past and focusing on Beanolts from Greed Island, but how focusing too much on the future robs the present of its meaning, and it's a shot at Kurapika. Again, juxtaposing that to Gon and Killua, it's chef's kiss. It's good. I like it. Let me enjoy one of my own videos with no caveats, please. But yeah, I think I already kind of explained what this video does. And, some people I've seen like complaints that, Gon is ungrateful, or that like he does nothing to ask for Killua's forgiveness. But you get the whole conversation with Kite, where Kite is like, hey, you fucked up, kid. You need to apologize. And he's very clearly like remorseful for what he did. And he this is from a different scene. But, like, he has the conversation. He's like, yeah, I understand what I did wrong. I need to apologize to him. And, like, there is an apology scene. It's kind of, like, brushed off because Killua's like, oh, don't take it so seriously. Because Killua's an insecure boy. But he's a good boy. Because he knows that, like, Gon realizes that he screwed up. And it's good. Plus, he loses his... that's a spoiler. But, yeah, like, and I forgot. I completely ignored that the second half of this video is about Leorio and Kurapika. I am a dummy. But yeah, so, like, there's definitely more of, like, a conclusiveness to Gon and Killua's friendship, and how, where it ends off. That, like, they forgive each other, and they understand that, they had to part ways because, like, they had gotten to the point where they didn't need to mutually depend on each other anymore. They can... For Killua, he had Aluka, was able to kind of more motivate himself. He had, like, his own desire to... He didn't need Gon there to... It wasn't the same as where, like, he thought he was darkness and Gon was the light pulling him out. Like, he realized that was a flawed way of viewing things, and he was able to kind of stand on his own 2 feet. Whereas for Gon, he has to kind of, perhaps took it for granted a little bit that Killua would be there for him, and, he kind of shuts him off, and Chimera Ant shuts him out, and gets very selfish and focuses on himself. But he learns that, and, like, there's still more that he has to develop there. But so it leaves on a point where they've clearly, like, settled their differences, and they're working beyond it. Whereas with Leorio and Kurapika, there's still more development that needs to be done here. And, I explain it in the video. And I do like this little joke where it's, again, like, I have the source, that interview with Togashi, where he's like, oh, what's going to happen to Kurapika and the Phantom Troop? And he's like, they'll all die. And it's just like...
Togashi will scar us all and kill everyone.
I do like that. I do like that bit. Because it's like, you get the happy ending sort of with... and I also do like that in the juxtaposition of their dynamics. And that's how this video builds off of the thematic breakdown, is that, it's, if Gon had the good ending... then what happens for the other ending, which, so it's like the ending before the ending, it's the detour before the destination. So what does the actual destination hold? So it hints at, like, well, not hint, that's not the word. It plays into my generally, like, optimistic view of things, and how, like, oh, Kurapika and Leorio, they're gonna, it's gonna end well. Everything's gonna be all right. And then it's juxtaposed with, like, Togashi just being like, nah, they're gonna all die. It's not gonna be good. It's gonna be the bad ending. You should have just let me take my hiatus in peace. You shouldn't have asked for more Hunter x Hunter. This is what you get. Anyway, yeah. Home stretch. Bloom into You. We're just gonna skip it. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, the Bloom into You video, it's another one of those personal videos, so I don't have a ton to say about it. But I will say, like, there were some takeaways I had from it, right? Earlier today, when I revisited it, I added in chapters. So now the video, you can actually see the chapters. So if this would have been good to put in initially, probably, because if people wanted to watch part of it but not get too spoiled on the manga, they could have done it. But regardless, top comments. Sometimes the YouTube comments are good. So the thing about this video, I like it. But the thing about, like, its conception is that because it is so personally driven, and it's not really like a flaw of the video, because the video never sets out to be anything more than what it is. But because I focus so much on the topic of aromanticism and, looking at it a lot from my personal perspective, and it's like predominantly focusing on, like, Koito Yu and why that character connects to me. And so even if there are sections where like, oh, it's titled Nanami Toko and, you know, like her role in the conversation, and it's titled Psyche Sayaka and the things I took away from her, it is not a holistic look at Bloom into You, which is not to say that like the things I say are wrong because I don't look at those things. Like, it's very deliberately, I focus on it from this one specific framework. I don't try to make any other observations outside of that, because they're like, if it's not relevant to what I'm talking about, that's another video entirely. And I might even someday do a video on Sayaka specifically, especially once I read the Sayaka novels, because I've started the first one, but there are 3 of them, so that'll take some time. But especially because like Sayaka's the third wheel, and especially like I remember in Zaria's video too, she's like, unfortunately, there's just not much I can say about her in this video because, you know, so it's just like Sayaka by, you know, she's not one of the 2 focal characters, so she is not just the third wheel in terms of like the relationship, but she's also the third wheel in terms of like being able to discuss her in videos, because it's unfortunate. But I do want to do Psyche Sayaka justice. I think I already have the title of the video lined out. If I do make it, it's going to be titled Psyche Sayaka is a Queen, because that's the line I used in the video, and it just works. It just works. But yeah, because it is focusing so much on the aromantic framework and my personal perspective, I can't really dig deep into other things that make the series great, like other points of appeal that stand out. So like I can't really focus too much on like Nanami Toko and how you know, like how her trauma is explored, and you know, the unique ideas that brings to the table. And I didn't really have much of an opportunity to talk about Sayaka, how, you know, her story kind of ties into that whole Class S movement, and, you know, the historical precedent of like, oh, girls, you know, they have like the romance in middle school, but they grow out of it, and, you know, they go on to have a heterosexual relationship, or they die tragically in those more like not historic, but you know, like the Class S works, where it's basically like you can't have a happy ending where both characters stay together. But, you know, not to say that those things are bad, but it's like, you know, the series acknowledges like the historical, you know, like the impact those had at the time. Like that was the kind of representation they were able to get, and like those were pushing the boundaries at that time. So like there's a whole other discussion to be had about Sayaka. There's a whole other discussion to be had about Toko, but I understood that this video could not be that, because like, you know, I could have made the video longer and went into those topics, but at that point it's getting away from the core thesis, which is, you know, it's about me. Bloom into You changed me. So it's about all the things, the ways that impacted me, and how this series resonated with me personally, and why I love it so much. So yeah, like it is a little unfortunate that I can't, you know, that it couldn't be like a holistic Bloom into You video, in that regard, because as I said, going off on those other points would have detracted from the core theme. And sometimes you just have to like focus on the topic you set out to do. And, you know, if you get to other points later, save them for later. That I did the whole Togashi month. Like, could I have made all of these points in one video and just made like a giant Togashi month movie? Maybe I should do like a re-upload as like a subscriber special. Like it's just Togashi month and it's every video sandwiched into one. But you don't have to do that. You don't need to make a video and have it be the definitive piece on anything. Like you can do that. Like if you're able to do that, by all means go for it. But there are certain perspectives you're just not going to be able to reflect, or whatever have you. Like I knew going into this video that it was personal, and I wanted to focus on what it meant to me and the things that I learned between when I first watched the anime and when I finished the manga. And I think it was good at that. There are certain edits in it, definitely, like this one, where it's like my creative brain is like, yes, this is, oh wait, I probably shouldn't be showing, I don't know. Well, it's Bloom spoilers, look away if you haven't seen. We'll just focus on Kaos. Kaos is a sad girl because she just got spoiled on the Bloom Into You manga. I don't know. But yeah, like there are certain edits where it's like my creative brain is like, yes, yes, do it. It's good. It's good. It's the emotions. You'll feel it. The people will feel it. It's good. Do it. And then my personal brain is like, no, emotional honesty, vulnerability, bad. Go away. Don't do it. Curl up in a corner and disintegrate in the dust. So yeah, it was a very, very interesting video in that regard. Definitely some conflicting emotions, very emotionally draining video to make. Maybe that's why it took me... This video came out in June. This one came out in October. And it's also 30 minutes long, almost 34 minutes long. It was a bit of an investment. Like, the video seemed to resonate with a lot of people. Like, I was surprised by the reception it got. It's a lot of views, a lot of comments. And for a lot of the comments I'm getting, it's like, oh, wow, this really hit me, or this resonated with me, or like, I've never been able to put words to these feelings. And it's like, yeah, I'm glad that this was able to do that for some people. Cause like that was kind of what I had with Bloom Into You, where I didn't really have words for the feelings that I was feeling. And then I watched this series and I was like, wow, it gets it. I understand. And yeah, it's a good series. Did I have any other notes on this? Oh, right. So like a little nitpick. I wanted to separate the characters a little more, like with their sections, but I did end up having to cut to Sayaka for a few clips before her section. So that didn't quite work as well as I would have hoped. It wasn't as divided. Also, a cool thing about this video is that it's basically like a part 3 in my journey with Bloom Into You content, because obviously there was the first video that I made back after the anime finished airing. Actually, I don't think the final episode had even aired yet when I made this video. So that was back in winter 2018. I made that video. And the whole first part of this video is re-examining that video. So it's kind of like calling back to what I said earlier, how like I would be interested in remaking the trans characters video, and that would be my first remake unless you count this video as a remake. But it's more, I see it more as like, it's like looking at the old video and it's saying, yes, and like it's adding on to it. It's not just like a shot-for-shot remake sort of thing, or clarification. Well, it is clarifying it, but then it like goes into something more. But part 2 in that journey was the Paramore video, the Paramore AMV that I did. You Are the Only Exception, and I link it here. You, Koito, you are the only exception. Ha, puns. So it was nice to kind of tie that in here as well, and really like cap off the journey. And I guess like if I did do more Bloom content, if I did make a Sayaka video, that would kind of be like epilogue maybe. I don't know if I'll find a way to tie it back. But the other thing that I completely missed until I like already finished the video and it was up and I was doing the track listing. Where is it? I used the same track twice in the video and I didn't even notice it. A Wound of the Heart seems to be the name of the track. It plays like somewhere in the middle of the video, and then like a few minutes later it plays again. But I guess like because the video is so long and has so much background music, it's also its background music, so people might not have even noticed. But no one like noticed it. And like I said, I didn't even notice it while I was editing. Like normally that's something I would catch. Maybe that is to say something negative, like, oh, all the Bloom soundtrack is kind of samey, too much piano. I don't know. I disagree. I'm bringing up an argument, making a straw man who doesn't exist. That's how it's a straw man. But yeah, like I used the same track twice and didn't notice it. And when I caught that, I was like, well, I'm not gonna go back and redo it because I think it works. I'm just gonna slide it in there, and if people catch it, good on them. And nobody caught it. So I've shown you my darkest secret. That one time I accidentally played the same track twice in a Bloom Into You video. feel free to unsubscribe, do all the things you got to do to make sure I can stop existing on this earth. Some people, which I called attention to this in the Star Twinkle video that I just made, that like some people were watching this video and were like, yeah, I've never seen your content before. I've never seen Bloom Into You, but I watched this video and I thought it was good. And I'm like, ideally, I would not want this to be like your first experience with some of the material in Bloom. I would definitely suggest that, like, if you have not seen it yet, please read the manga and then come to this video. Like, I don't care if it takes you like 5 years and maybe you forget it and you don't even get to the video. Like, just read the manga. It's good. It's a good series, I swear. Or if you're waiting on the second season of the anime, which please give us a second season. That was like my personal suggestion. Like, if you don't care about spoilers and you want to watch the video anyway, more power to you. I can't stop you, but if you are someone who has already like seen the anime, or hasn't seen the series yet but is interested in it, definitely check out the manga. But it's cool that people out of nowhere just found your video and liked it. Yeah, that was crazy. It's easily one of the like craziest developments I've had in my time on YouTube. Like, I didn't even think this video would hit the 33,000 that the original video did, because that video was a seasonal video. It was timely. It was like relevant to when it was currently airing. And that was all it did. And it's not a shonen series, so it's not like in my general wheelhouse. So I expected it would do maybe half of the 33,000. Like, maybe that was like optimistic thinking. Because like it's not seasonal anymore. The manga wrapped up almost a year ago. At the time I made this, almost a year ago. So like it wasn't a seasonal topic. It wasn't a shonen. It wasn't like there was nothing that prompted me to make it in terms of like an announcement, or there was like no buzz around Bloom. So I'm like, yeah, this video is gonna flop, but I gotta get it out of my system. And then it blew up out of nowhere. Like, it did flop initially, like with my subscriber base. It was like 10 out of 10, like worst performing video, according to YouTube's analytics. And I have the whole like Twitter thread detailing that, how that just like slowly got thrown out the window. Because like a week or two went by and then it just started catching on. And I was like, what, who, what, why? And then it surpassed the old Bloom video. And I'm like, okay, it caught up to that old Bloom video. That's as much as it's going to do. It's already exceeded my expectations, like double what I thought it would get. And even then, that was like an optimistic assumption. Like, if the video had only gotten like 5,000 views by this time, or like 6, maybe 5 would have been a little low, but like between 5 and 10,000 by this point, it wouldn't have surprised me. Cause like I was expecting it to be more like Comic Girls, which was a seasonal anime that I talked about, like a year late. And it got about 11,000, since I uploaded it over a year and a half ago. So that was more like the expectation I was coming from. And then it just blew up. Especially because I thought like 30 minutes, like it's a 30-minute video. People were clicking on a 30-minute video from a creator they weren't familiar with, about a series they weren't familiar with. And I can't fathom it. And then again, I guess I've done that before, but I don't know. Like, I can't process it. Especially with something like this. Like, the video was so personal in nature. How could I have predicted that? But it happened, and so it's like, okay, I guess we'll roll with it. Yeah, so that was the Bloom video. I can close my notes document because I don't have any notes on this one. But for the Star Twinkle Precure video, I just feel like there's something missing here. I don't know what it is. And if anything, it's kind of just like, this is the part where we talk about like, okay, where's the channel going forward? So it's less like talking about the video and more just like what I felt after making the video, I guess. Because, this video was similar to, it's basically like Cheetu Part 2. It's looking at a character who it's like, okay, I think it's a cute character design, so I appreciate the aesthetic, but I also enjoyed what the series did on like a deeper thematic level. I'll bring the video up, but I won't go too deep into it. I mean, like it's a comedy video, and it starts off like this.
What did you think of Star Twinkle Precure?
Gakko Garashi music in the background. It's just embrace chaos. Throw structure to the wind. Yeah, so it starts off like that. It's just like, what am I... Like, if people... Like, I think people might have clicked on this. Like, I can't imagine what someone would see, like, if you open a video and this is how it starts. I did it because I thought it was funny. And, like, that's a lot of what the video is. It's like, made video about Dog Girl because I thought it would be funny. And, like, I did have things to say about it. You know, it ties into the whole thing of, like, Uni's character and how the idea of justice and how that can be twisted and how, you know, the dog cop and the cat thief and, you know, like, thematic parallels and contrasts and how her, you know, this show kind of hints that, you know, her perspective is not necessarily correct. That, like, her idea of justice could be wrong, but it doesn't really, like... She's a movie character, so there's no room to build on it. So it's also kind of in the vein of like the Jobber video, where it's looking at a very irrelevant character, same as like the Kalluto video. So it's not like there's no precedent for me making this video. But I don't know, something about it just feels like it's lacking. You know, like the Cheetu video I felt was kind of dense as far as like it had more going on than just talking about the dumbass cat boy. Like there was more thematically going on. This one was more like speculative, I guess, because there wasn't much material to work with, so it did also kind of, you know, I could draw parallels to a couple of different videos I've made, but I don't know, something about it just didn't, like, I think it's a fine video. I don't dislike it, because I liked some of the jokes I did, you know, like the Gakko Garashi opening, and there were certain things I like played with as far as like script writing, because I knew this video would be kind of weird. So, like,
I know that in the past, some people
the
have
bit
come across my
here
content despite not knowing anything about me.
is the whole, like, I guess it doesn't work maybe because it's already 2 minutes into the video, but, like, I was poking fun at the idea of, like, introductions, like, well, if you don't know, you know, like, we here at mathwiz.youtube or something, and, you know, like, here's what this channel is about, and here's what the show is about, but instead I just, like, boil it down to I'm a disaster and just move on, like deadpan, don't address it. I thought I kind of liked that bit.
For context, I'm a disaster, and episode 36 of Star Twinkle Precure...
Like you just move on and don't address it. It's like, oh, are you okay? And I guess that's, you know, like if I wanted to try to make like I think it would be kind of funny if I made like just a recurring theme of this year, whatever kind of content I make was just like, are you doing okay? Why did you make this video? Because this leans in a more like comedic, goofy direction of that. The shonen movie project that I'm working on it's in a different vein of like, why would you watch all of these movies, you crazy person? Why would you watch so much mid for the sake of this project? Why did you choose to do this? And especially if the video turns out how like one of the many potential ways it could go at this stage, where like the video itself becomes movie length because of all the different things I'm talking about. People would be like, are you okay? Why did you make this? Like I said, I don't know if it'll actually be movie length. I might end up breaking it down more into different parts. But I don't know. Like, this is just, I think, more of a reinforcement of, like, where the channel has gone over time. It feels more reminiscent, I think, of when I did do more seasonal stuff, which was, like, more further back in, like, late 2017, early 2018. You know, like, Made in Abyss video, MMO Junkie video, Guru Guru video. You know, videos that are just kind of like, you watch them and they pass by. Like, there's not a major point to it. It's just kind of like a thing I wanted to talk about. And, you know, that was part of the driving force of, like, making this video, is because, like, I don't want to be stuck at only making, you know, half an hour personal, exhausting projects that take forever to make and I can only put out like a couple a year. Like I don't know. It's trying to like strike that balance. And some people might like this video. Like I'm not throwing the video completely out, like saying it's bad. But it's probably like, you know, I expected to get like a decent, if this were like AnyTube Digest. Like it's not best of the week. It's not worst, but it's kind of just like, you know, it exists. It's a video that came out. And I don't know. I guess it's more just like, where do I want to take the channel at that point then? Because it's like, am I okay with just making like a decent video that like people might enjoy it? You know, people say they'll watch whatever I put out. But is that good enough for me? Is the thing. So I don't know. I'm in a weird place with the channel at the moment because I know like there are projects I want to work on. I think like at this point I'm kind of looking more into some of the bigger stuff I've been putting off for a while. Like the Shonen movie project. I would like to finally get to the baby steps stuff maybe this year, hopefully, because I'm getting through season 2. I think I'm about almost halfway through season 2. So I just like, I don't know. You know, I've over the course of this year, especially, you know, Togashi month might have been like the one last hurrah of like, make a go at this, put up a bunch of content, see how it goes, see if it can light a fire under the channel. And I don't think like there's not a spark here. Because like this video aside, I do think the Bloom Into You video is one of the best videos I've made. And it's not a video I have very many qualms with. Same with like a lot of the Togashi month videos. So is that just kind of where the channel's at right now? Like, can I only put up these things that I've really put a lot of thought into? Like, I would I do want to be able to talk more casually just about stuff that I consume. But it doesn't seem like YouTube is the way that I can do that. Because like I make this video and it feels like something's missing. It feels like it's not good enough. Like should it have even existed in the first place? It's more back to like that retro style. Retro? That's not the word. Back to like more classic Math Whiz, where it's like, you know, doing the seasonal stuff and it's like, is my heart really in it? Because like maybe it's what I wanted to do at the time, but how's it gonna hold up? You know, is it something I'm gonna be able to look back on and think like, yeah, but I don't know. Like, do I also just want to lean into the chaotic energy and try to see if I can make this style work better? Don't know. Yeah, so that's the state of the channel, baby. Everything is falling apart. What is the... I don't remember the quote. Something about there's no driver at the wheel, but I don't remember how that goes. I can't even reference the meme correctly. Thank you for tuning in. I hope that this was interesting. Different way to do the reflecting on the content format. Generally, it's like when I'm saying the things, it feels like I'm going off on... Like there's no cohesion to what I'm saying, but generally, like, I'll listen to it back, and it's like, oh, you know, that actually does kind of make more sense. I wasn't as scrambled as I thought. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you next time. Have a good night, everybody.